So last week we entered JavaScript, but for the sake of people that have not been here, we finished HTML, we finished CSS, we finished Git and GitHub. HTML, of course, we treated HTML5 because that's like the more modern HTML. So semantic elements, we did all of those things. We moved to our CSS, how to create style sheets, linking your style sheets, creating style for responsive development. And as you can see in our website, we were able to build this nice website right here. We built all of this, right? We have multiple pages. We have our portfolio page, we have our contact page, and we added a map, and it's all responsive. So if you go to mobile view, on phone, it still looks good. On iPad, this is an iPhone 12, it still looks good. On an iPad, it still looks good. And on a laptop, it still looks good. So that's the whole point of responsive web design. So we've done all of this, and we moved to Git and GitHub. And for that, we pushed our code up here in the repository, landscapes repository. So anyone that creates their GitHub account, you'll be able to find my own code. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do yours. By all means, do yours. But all our codes are currently sitting here for your reference. And you guys too, once you treat your GitHub, you should be pushing to your own GitHub. Be pushing your code to your own GitHub. So we've done all of those fun stuff, and we moved to JavaScript just last week. And we treated the basics of JavaScript. What is JavaScript? The history of JavaScript, what it is used for. We said it's like the brain behind your page. Remember, if those of you that were here from the start, I said HTML is like the skeleton. It's like the frame, the backbone. CSS is for style. So on a skeleton, what can you now put on the skeleton to make it start to look beautiful? You can put skin, you can choose the eye color of the person, you can choose the hair color, you can choose the height, the weight of the person, anything. Those are all CSS, styles, aesthetics. JavaScript is the brain. All those things are pretty much useless if the brain is not alive and functioning, right? They are nice to have, but the brain has to come alive for everything, for mobility, for movements, for thinking, for everything you do. It's literally our brain that is the powerhouse, and that's what JavaScript is to the web. And JavaScript has extended just beyond basic website design. Like, you use it for AI now, virtual reality. In so many industries, you cannot really do anything that has to do with the internet now without JavaScript being involved. So we looked at variables. What are variables? We said they're like containers that hold data. And we looked at data types. Data type is just a type of a data sitting in a container. We looked at operators for performing different type of operations, mathematical operations, logical operations, and the rest. We looked at control structure, if-else statements. I've just uploaded the video today on YouTube. So once after this class, I'll share the link, and all these things I'm saying, you will see it, refer to in video. And the thing I always say is that if you get stuck at any point, you can always have a one-to-one with me. Just message me directly or on the group self, so that people will see and be encouraged. Because I feel like when people see your interaction on the group, they get encouraged. So message me directly or on the group and tell me about something, and we'll find a time to sit down and schedule and do the one-to-one, and we see where you're having an issue. And another thing I wanted to point out was that please, before you do anything on your code, know why you are trying to do it. Just don't do it because I did it and you are trying to write what I've written. Do it because you now understand that, okay, this line I'm about to write, this CSS I'm about to add, this is exactly what is going to achieve for me. This JavaScript I'm writing, what am I trying to achieve, or what was the teacher trying to achieve by doing this? So you have to consciously and intentionally listen to everything I'm saying, then process it before you now go to start writing it, right? So these are the things. So this week in week 10, we are going to be looking at functions and DOM magic. So it's time to make our web page listen back, because last week, everything we did, we sort of did it in our console.log in the test area. We didn't do it directly on our website. We did it in here. So there's this inbuilt functionality JavaScript has called console. It's used for debugging and testing. So we did everything on JavaScript in here. We didn't really bring anything into our website. So this week we'll bring more things into our website. I think the only thing we did bring in our website is this functionality to hide the introduction, to either display it or collapse it. That was what we did. And even this one was supposed to be for this week, but I just wanted to introduce a little bit of it. So now we will be talking functions first. What is a function in JavaScript? Again, if you really listen and you are attentive to these words, you will see that they even describe themselves. If you hear function, what does your brain automatically process? It will just tell you, oh, function is like doing something, like something that is responsible for the functionality of something. Like, you may not get the full picture, but just that word function should take your mind places at least. So a function is like a reusable block of code, right? A function will have a name. A function can take inputs, or we call them arguments, or we call them parameters, and they can do something, and lastly, they can return a value. These are the four main characteristics of a function. So first, they will have a name. They can take an argument. They must not have an argument, but they can. If you want to pass an argument or an input to them, they can. They can do something, so they'll perform an operation, and then they will return the response or the results to you. So now, why use function? Functions are very important because one of the key qualities of a good developer is to be able to write clean and reusable code. And down the line, especially if we get into backend, you start to see what I mean by clean and reusable code. Sometimes you will see that one thing you want to do, you don't want to keep doing it everywhere. And a good example is this. I'll give you an example from our code. So, for example, now our header. By our header, I mean this part of our code, right? This our header here, where our links are. You see that in every page, we had to do it over and over and over and over again. So for our home page, we put the header in here. For our portfolio page, we also came and we wrote the header all over again. For our contact page, the same thing, we wrote the header all over again. So in JavaScript now, functions can help you write logic one time and use it in anywhere you want to use it. You don't have to keep writing it every time you have to use it. So if you see that you are writing JavaScript and there's something that you know that will appear in multiple places, you write it one time and only that one time. Anywhere it has to appear, you just call that function in that place. Just like CSS classes, right? If you remember classes, one class name, anywhere you call that class name, that style will be applied to that area. It's the same thing with a function. Anywhere you call that function will be executed on that part that you've called it. So you can reuse the code in a function in that way. And then you can organize your logic. Unlike our last week's session where we were just going all over the place, all these things we did from line 1 to line, where did we stop? Line 168. All these things might as well be in one logic, a function, depending on the functionality we are trying to achieve though. All these things, you don't have to write let one line. Everything can be in one organized logic. And then it makes your code cleaner. Instead of this thing again we were writing all over the place, writing just one function like this will make your code cleaner and all your logic in one place, and you can reuse this one function anywhere you want to use it. And finally, you can use it to trigger actions. Like this one now is a function called toggle introduction, and I have attached the function to a button that I created in our homepage called, and the text of the button is toggle introduction, and I put the function on that button, and this is that button, right? And I attach that function to this button so that when I click on it, I'm triggering the event to happen on click. So when I click, which is on click, right, as you can see, on click, this function will be called. And what does this function do? It helps me hide or show my introduction section, essentially. So these are just benefits of using functions and knowing how to write good functions. So this is an example of a function. So there's a simple function here. The name is called greet, and we just want to console.log hello, right? So anywhere I call this function, it will just return hello. This is a second example. Remember when I said function can take input or arguments? So it may not take inputs like this one, but it can take arguments, because sometimes you want the operation that the function is trying to perform to be dynamic. You don't want to hard code any values in here, like return x plus y. Remember when we did operators last week that I did 5 plus 5, 10 plus 10. I did all of those things. When you watch the last week video, you understand what I mean. But I did all of those. So you don't want, sometimes you just don't want to return 5 plus 5 because you don't know the number that might be coming in. Sometimes it can change. Sometimes depending on what the user inputs, right? And you don't know what the user can input. So you will just keep the values here as a placeholder and perform the operation against this placeholder. Anywhere this function is called, it will just take the user input and do exactly this operation against that user input and return the result. So taking these parameters helps function perform more dynamically, essentially. Now, we talked about DOM again. We said we'll be looking at the DOM today. What is the DOM? It simply means document object model. And the whole concept is that on your web page, right, on this web page, JavaScript sees everything like a tree, like a big tree, right? So the web page is seen as a tree of objects. Everything on that web page uses, JavaScript uses the DOM to select, to change, to listen to different part of your page, the document object model. So JavaScript would use that. So anything you want to, any behavior you want to achieve on your page, JavaScript views it through something called the DOM. And through that DOM is like a tree of different objects. JavaScript uses it to perform any behavior or to listen for any behavior in any part of your page whatsoever. So right now we talk, I'll just show you examples of trying to select an element or trying to change content or the style of something on your HTML page or even listen for events. So selecting elements, you can use this example to grab HTML elements and change them. So there's a functionality called get elements by ID. It's an inbuilt JavaScript functionality. So remember what we said here. JavaScript sees the web page as a tree of objects. The DOM means document object model. So everything is like a document on the page in a tree format, right? So whenever you want to let's say you want to change the text or the color of a text on your HTML page, you can call document dots, and then if that text has an ID, you get the elements by ID and you pass in that ID, and just like that, JavaScript is seeing that HTML element on your page, and you can do anything you want to do to that element. We are going to see this in the practical. Then this is an example of changing content and styles as well. So sometimes you can change styles, you can change color of something, you can change an image to another image self. You can also use it to listen for events. So like that on click I added is an event. So you can use it to listen for a click event. You can use it to listen for a mouse event, any event. And we are going to look at events. But if there are lots of different types of events you can do on JavaScript. Like events are just things that will happen in your page. So when the user clicks the mouse, what is going to happen? When the user lifts their mouse, what is going to happen? When the user takes their mouse over something, what is going to happen? If the user double clicks, what is going to happen? If the user scrolls, what will happen? Those are just types of events. There are a lot of them, but you can perform any action on any event using JavaScript. So now what we are going to be looking at today, I don't want to dwell too much on this theory, but we'll be changing our heading texts. We'll change the color of our heading texts, and by that I mean this heading. So when we take our mouse over it, I want to change the color. This doesn't mean that we can't do that in CSS. We could have, but this is JavaScript today. So we'll be changing the color of this text using JavaScript. We will be changing this image as well. So I'm going to add another button called change image. And when I click the button, I want this image to become another image entirely. Then we'll be changing the color on hover as well. So yeah, we are going to be changing this color when we hover, and then we'll be changing the text as well. When we click, we want the text to change to something else. These are just little examples. They are not necessarily things that are important for our page to get any more beautiful, because I feel like this page is really fine as it is. But in the next week class, I will try for us to build a slideshow, because that next week, I think that's when we'll be entering concept of loop and array and the rest, and those concepts will come very handy for the projects we'll be adding to our website next week. So I would like for us to change this page, this hero section, into a slideshow, so that it'll be different images sliding through, right? But for now, we'll just keep a button, and when we click it, it will change the image. And that's just it. What else are we going to achieve today? Yeah, and we'll make like a greeting function probably, and then we'll keep another event listener that will respond to a keyboard input. Let's just see how all of this will work in action. I don't really know what exactly we might be able to achieve, but let's just get straight into the practical and start from there. Thing we'll be looking at, let's try to achieve the first thing. Let's just greet the user, right? So let's create a function. We said we'll be learning functions and DOM today. So I'm going to teach you guys how to create a function, although already we did it up here, but just for the sake of learning it over and over again, I will create another function. And remember what I keep saying about naming things. Anything you are creating, and that thing should have a name. Let the name make sense according to what you are trying to achieve. So whether you're trying to name a function or name a variable or name a CSS class, give it a name that actually makes sense to what you are trying to achieve, right? So I'm going to create this function, and I'll call it greet user, because I want the function to help us greet the user when the person first load the page, right? So just like this, greet user. So for me now, I'll put it in an alert. There's something called alert in JavaScript. It's an inbuilt JavaScript functionality whereby it shows an alert on the screen. When the user lands on that part of the page, it will show an alert. So I'll just use an alert, right? And the alert will just say, hello. Then, so you use plus when you want to join things together. So you can use plus when you want to add two numbers together, as in mathematics, and you can use plus when you want to join different texts together, right, to form one sentence. You can use plus to join things together like that. So I will say my name. Already my name is a variable I declared last week when I was teaching on variables. So my name is holding Winifred, right? My name is, just know that a variable is like a container that can hold a value. So I created this variable container called my name, and it's holding my actual name, Winifred. So down here, because this variable is outside of our function, every single function will be able to use this variable, right? So this is what brings us to the topic of scope in functions. There's something called local scope and global scope. So when you declare a variable, right, if you declare it outside of a function, right? So I didn't declare this variable inside here, like let my name equal to Winifred. I didn't do that, right? I declared it outside of this function on its own. If I was to declare this variable, in fact, let me just use this to actually teach, because this is a very important topic and I feel like you guys might run into this issue. So let me branch out and teach on this function scope a little bit. So this is a different function on its own with a different functionality. I will bring that variable that I declared in here. Let's declare that variable here. Now, I'll continue what I was doing. My name. I don't know if there's another my name, but there's no my name. So my name, I'll just continue what I'm writing and you guys would see what I'm trying to achieve soon. Plus, then I'll say, welcome to Beautiful Landscapes, our website. Beautiful Landscapes. And of course, no pressure on yourself. If you're not following right away, that's absolutely fine. I'm not expecting that you guys follow, immediately, right? So now I'll call this function. So when you write a function, you have to be able to use that function somewhere. For this toggle introduction now, I use the function in my button, in my index.html. For this one, I don't want the function attached to a button. I just want it to be triggered immediately the page load. So I'll call it right here, immediately after the function, I'll call it. So when JavaScript is reading from top to down like this, once it gets to this function, the next thing is going to go to this line and trigger this function immediately. Unless you attach this function to an element on your HTML, then it will wait for that part to do it that way. But for now, it's going to trigger the function immediately once it gets here, to trigger the function on our page. So let's see what happens. Basically, my name was declared up here initially, holding my actual name. But now I've commented everything out. So this my name now, this function doesn't have anywhere it's seeing my name because it's no longer outside here globally, right? Remember, I had moved it into this place. I had moved it into the toggle introduction function. So as you can see, this one is even grayed out because in JavaScript head, nothing is using this my name anymore. Nothing is using it. I've not called my name anywhere within this function where I've written it, right? I've not called it anywhere within this function. I'm not using it anywhere here, right? While this other new function I'm writing to greet the user, I'm calling my name, but it's not really being declared anywhere. So if you call a variable, the meaning is that you have to declare that variable. Just like this, let my name equals to Winnie. And now you can see that this name inside this our alert is pointing to this one I've declared in here. But when you declare a variable outside of a function, you are declaring it globally. So any other function in that same JavaScript page can see this variable and use it to do anything they want to do. When you declare that variable inside a function, it now becomes local to that function, and only this function can now use that variable. So that's just the difference between the scope, local scope versus global scope. Just keep that in your head. So now, if we are to alert my name, it's going to show, hello Winnie, welcome to Beautiful Landscapes, right? Alert, hello Winnie, welcome to Beautiful Landscapes, because now it can find my name, right? So now I can't see my name. So I guess that's why the alert wasn't showing, because JavaScript cannot see my name again anywhere. It doesn't see my name. My name only exists within this function, and it cannot pick it up from this other function because this is local to this function. But if I declare it outside of this function, right? If I declare it anywhere outside of this function, is now global, and JavaScript can now see it and pick it up. So I know I'm repeating myself over and over again, but this is just me trying to highlight global versus local. So whenever you're using variables, just be careful of that, right? So we've just written a function to greet our user. So anytime the user lands on our page, they'll first be greeted with this hello, whatever the name of the user is, welcome to Beautiful Landscapes, right? And then when they say okay, they can continue looking at our page. So that's just, something on JavaScript itself. Now, we are going to look at the next one, changing the heading of our text. I want to, whenever I click, I want to change this text to something else. Maybe instead of welcome to the world of beautiful landscapes, I want to change it to maybe something like explore nature's magic. So let's see how we can achieve that. Again, these are just little things. I'm just showing you how to use JavaScript. It doesn't mean that this is what you must do. You can sit down and think of what you want to achieve with JavaScript and then write a plan on how to go about that. For me, I'm just trying to show you how to, in fact, how to build a function. I'm just need to show you how to do functions, essentially. I'm not necessarily making it to be super complicated or anything. So let's create another function called change heading. So that's this function, change heading. Now, remember what I said, that when you want to change something in HTML, you can target that particular HTML you want to change and actually change it, right? I talked about that. So the heading I want to change is this one, welcome to the world of beautiful landscape. And good thing, our heading has an ID. And good thing, JavaScript has a functionality called get elements by ID. So even from the name, you can tell that it's trying to get a particular HTML element using the ID of that element. So I will just get this ID and go into my JavaScript function. I'll declare a variable first, right? And I will just say, let's heading be equal to document.get element by ID, and I will pass the name of our heading. It's called main heading. Just like that, I have this whole heading. Just like that, I have it in JavaScript and it's sitting down in this container called heading. Just by targeting it like this and passing the ID. It's sitting down in this container now called heading, right? Okay. So what I want to do next is change the content from welcome to the world of beautiful landscapes to a different word entirely. So what you can do is say, you can now call this container heading. Remember, this heading container is holding our heading now from HTML. So you can now say heading dot text content is equal to, I just want to say explore nature's magic. And that's it. But do you see my code is throwing an error? And I don't know if anybody can take a wild guess. This is where I would like you to interact with me. Please, can anybody tell me why I have this error right now? Just attempt. Even anything you say is not stupid. Just attempt. Can someone just tell me why this error is happening on this page now?
Because you have your height quotation, your quotation up there. You have your string.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Because of your string.
Exactly. Thank you very much. That's just it. So with JavaScript, whenever you are writing a string, remember we talked about strings last week for people that were not here. We talked about data type. We said we have string. String is just a text. But what makes a string is the quotes around it. So this name now is a string because it has this open and close quotes around it. And JavaScript doesn't select quotes. You can use double quotes like this, or you can use single quotes like this. It doesn't mind, right? It doesn't mind. But what you cannot do is that when you are writing a string, in the middle of the open and closing quotes, you will now put a quote inside in that string. JavaScript will error, right? So you can either do two things. Either you use double quotes if you know that you want to write an English word that has a single quote, like nature's now. This is a correct English word. But because you're already using a single quote around this string, you cannot just use this like this. So it's two things. Either you escape it or you use double quotes. So if I use double quotes now, this should fix the error, right? This would still work. Or better yet, you can even just escape it. So when you are writing, what you can do, you can say explore nature's beauty, just like so. So when you put a backward slash before a single quote, you are escaping it. Basically, you are telling JavaScript that, hey, don't read this as the end of my string. Just read it as a text. Look at these two things as one text. Don't error my page out because this one and this one is still my open and close string. This one is just a word, right? So it's two things. Either you use double quotes at the beginning and end, or you escape it. That's what you can do, essentially, right? So now, this might change heading. I can decide to do anything with it. But what I want to do, again, it depends on what you want to achieve. But for my own class, what I want to achieve is that when I click, actually, I'll just create it as a button. When I click on a button, I want this text to change from this to this word in here. And we've already written the function out. So what we just need to do is take our function and attach it to anywhere we want that action to happen. So I would like to add another button here, and I'll just call it change heading. And that button will have an on-click event. And in this on-click event, we can now have our function. I copied the whole function instead of the name. So we can now have our function called change heading, like so. I don't know those of you that were not here last week, if you remember how JavaScript is able to communicate with our HTML page, just like CSS that we linked up here. Where did we link that our CSS again? Link here. We also linked our JavaScript too. Look at our JavaScript in here. So the same way you create an external style and you link it, any page you are trying to use those JavaScript functionality, you have to also link it with this syntax. So that's just something I forgot to mention, but I did mention it last week though. So where's our button? So on this button now, change heading. When I click this button, I want my heading to change. So let's see if that has worked out. I don't know. So when I refresh, so of course we get our alert and change heading, and now you see our heading has changed. So I don't know if you are getting the whole point now, but I don't like the style of that button, so I'll copy this one. To be fair, I should have just made this a class as well, which I should probably just do now. I'll make it a class in CSS so that I don't have to be writing this over and over again. So I'll make this, I'll just call it JS buttons and put all of my styles in here. Yeah, put all of my styles in here. Save. My prettier is not working, but they should all be on separate lines. So instead of writing these styles over and over again, we can just call our class name and our button will have that class. So I'll do the same thing for this one because I pretty much want the same styles. I think this is what we call the class name, right? JS buttons, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see. Yeah, and pretty much our button still has the same styles. So and our function still works. So change heading and it still changed, right? Our alert still works, as we could see. So these are just little ways to use JavaScript. I don't like the layout of this button. This is just me. You don't have to do it when you are doing your own, but this is just me. I don't like the arrangements. I don't like the way it looks under each other on the page. So I'm just going to do a functionality to make them be on the same line instead of different lines like that. So I'll create one section here, and all my buttons will be in this section. Yeah, in this section. This is where my buttons will be. And inside this section, I will give it an inline style. I will call it display flex, and I will make the flex direction to be a row, and then I will justify it as center and give it a gap of 10 pixels. So that means I do not necessarily need to make these buttons as display block anymore because it's fine. And yeah, I also don't need this as well. So, and even the padding, to be fair, I don't need most of these styles. I'll see if what I wanted even worked. Oh yeah, great. Okay, I need my padding. The padding is what makes the button a little, yeah, exactly. So this is fine by me. I probably want a margin as well. This is not JavaScript. This is just me being particular about the way the website looks. So don't mind me, please. I'm just wasting our time to make the website still look beautiful. But yeah. So yeah, so I prefer the buttons. They look better to me this way. You don't have to do it. You don't have to like it, but this is just what I prefer. So change heading still works. Our toggle is still working. Oh, we probably need a padding as well for this section. But that's by the way. So now you can see that we've created two functions. This one is responsible for our alerts, and this one is responsible for changing our heading, right? So great. So let's try another one. Let's try a third example. I'm going to create this function to change the image of our home page. This big image here, I want to change it. So what I want to do, I'll create a function. I'll call it change image just so that it makes sense to what we are trying to achieve. And inside this function, I'm going to say let image be equal to, so I'm sure you can guess it, the same thing, document dot get element by ID. And I don't know if I've given the image an ID. This is the image, right? Yeah, after the header, this is the image. So I'll just give it an ID and I'll call it hero image. That's what I'll call it, because it's like a hero. A hero is like that big section on our page when you first land that shows pictures. Sometimes it can be a slideshow, sometimes it can just be a button on the hero or anything. But a hero is that big image first when you land on a page. So I'll just call it hero image. Is a nice name, is a reasonable name. So the idea of the idea of the element I'm trying to target is this hero image ID, right? Now let's change the actual image. So what we can do, we can say image dot src is equal to. So in here, I can now specify another image, because if you remember, it's the src that helps us link our image, right? It's the src that helps us link a particular image. For those of you that did this part, at least when we were doing it. So it's still that same src that we are going to put another image. So this image now is basically this container. And this container is holding what? Is holding this entire image because of the ID I have passed into that functionality, document or get element by ID. So we can now target the src of that our image and change it. So I'll just change it to images slash, I don't know which one is nice enough. Let's just look for a good one. Let's use this one, maybe image 10. Yeah. So I'll just change it to images slash image 10.jpg. All right. So you can even change the alt attribute. You can change any attribute. As you can see, my assistant is trying to even suggest changing alt, suggest changing whatnot. But for now, I'm just focused on changing just the image itself. The alt is fine. So this change image function, I don't know if I should create it as a button or I should create it on another thing happening. Let's just create it as a button for now. So I'll put that button still amongst these buttons. I'll put it here. And on click, or let's even use another event. We don't have to be using on click every time. Let's say, or better yet, you know what is more fun? Let's actually try doing it when we hover on this image, right? I feel like that will be a more fun way to do it. So on what I'm trying to remember the function that does hover. Is it on mouse over? I think it's on mouse over. That's the event. And we are going to call this. Hopefully this would work. So on mouse over, I want my image I want to call this function. And what does this function do? This function takes our ID and changes it to a different image. So we don't know if it will work. Let's see. Yeah, I see it works. So on mouse over, it happened really quick. So you may not notice, but on mouse over, it happened. Maybe for the sake of seeing it well, I can do it on a button, because it's happening as if it's immediately the page loads. So I'll just do it on a button instead of mouse over. But I won't delete this. I'll just comment it out for why is it not comment? Okay, it's because it's part of the image. I'll just move it up here and comment it out. But yeah, I'd like to bring it back later, so I'm not going to delete it. So let's do this on a button instead, just so that we can see the behavior. So change image on click, and or let's even do on double click. I would like to be using different events so that you guys can see that you can use any event. So I don't want on click, I want on double click change, and then the same class, so that it will have the same style as the other buttons, and then to be change image, right? So if I refresh my page, it shouldn't be happening anymore on the over of the image. It should be happening when we click our change image function. Yeah. But I have to double click, not click. Because see, I click once, it didn't happen. But if I double click, that's when it happens. Because I put a double click event on the button, not a click event. If this is making sense to you, I'll be happy. Again, you don't have to overly think it or rush to understand everything today. But practice, practice, practice. That's what is going to help you. So now, so we've done the one to change our heading text. We've done to change our okay, we've done this one last week, we've done this one, and we've done this one on double click, right? Okay, so the next thing, let's change, what are we going to even change now? Let's change the color of something on our page. I would like to change the color of of this whole text actually. It's just that this whole text they are not wrapped in. Let's change something easier. Let's change the color of this. So let's say when I go over this element, I want the color to change of this heading, this explore nature's beauty or whatever it is whenever the page first load. Welcome to the world of beautiful landscapes. Let's change the color. So what we can do is, again, we still have our ID, so we can use this ID to target it. I'll create another function. I'm just creating different functions so that it will give you the idea of functions, right? So I'll create another function and I will call it change heading color. The assistant is helping me. I don't like to use it to complete things for me because we should be typing, we shouldn't be using help to complete stuff, especially when you are learning. So I will say let heading be equal to documents.get elements by ID, and then this is our heading, main heading. So we have our heading inside here like so. So what you can now say is heading.style.color is equal to, and then you pass in the color. So I'll just say pink because I can't come up with any colors off the top of my head. So let's just stick to pink, even if it's not, it might not look the best there, right? So now what we can do is on mouse over, right? So on mouse over, we can call this function here and save. Let's see if that helps with anything. This alert, I feel like taking it off. It happened so quick because my mouse went over it really quick. But you see it's there. But if I'm just doing my thing, I'm toggling, it's still nothing is happening. I'm changing the heading, I'm changing my image, but on mouse over, it changes the color immediately. So JavaScript for you. So these are just little examples. In real life, it's a lot more complicated than this. You use JavaScript for bigger functionalities than this, trust me. You use JavaScript to do a whole lot more than just, oh, you're changing the color of something. But I'm just giving people the breakdown of how to even go about reasoning that in the first place. You know that, okay, a function will be involved. I have to target these elements to do something on it. I have to, throw an alert here and this and that. So that's just what I'm trying to show you guys now. Another thing we could do is let's treat event listeners. So I'm not going to do this one in a function just because I feel like I've highlighted enough on function, and to be fair, we mustn't do it in a function. I'll just call this let's even see what we want to do. I'm trying to let's change I don't even know what I want to. Let's change the color of this paragraph, this first one now. Let's say on the same mouse over, let's change the color of that paragraph using event listeners now, right? So the ones you attach to these buttons, right? All these ones you attach to these buttons, you attach a function to the button using an event, but there are something called event listeners. Basically, from their name, I'm guessing you can already guess. They just sit down and wait and listen for an event to happen before they carry out that functionality. But I'll do it now and it will make more sense to you. Heading paragraph be equal to documents.get elements by ID, and I'll call that main. I'll call that intro P1, which is intro paragraph 1, right? So I've declared a variable here and is holding intro P1. But I don't think I've added this ID yet to that paragraph. Yeah, here. Intro P1. So yeah, we are now targeting that paragraph and is sitting down in this variable called heading paragraph. I'll call it heading paragraph 1 actually, so that we know which specific paragraph. So now, what we can do, we can now add an event listener on this paragraph right in JavaScript. So we can say heading paragraph 1 dot add event listener. And what we are listening for is maybe a mouse over event. Let's use a mouse over. So on mouse over, you now have to call a function. And I'll explain to you shortly. Again, I'll go over this again. So you now call a function. So I still want to do the same thing basically. Heading paragraph 1 color. Let's just call it blue. and let's console.log something, mouse over events triggered on paragraph 1. I don't know how blue will be. Let's say, let's put dark green. Blue might be very ugly, right? So now, I don't even have to add, I don't have to create a function and add it to this paragraph 1. Already my paragraph 1 has an ID, right? And using that ID on document.getElement by ID, I've been able to store that whole paragraph inside this variable called heading paragraph 1. So this variable now that is holding my paragraph, I can just add an event listener to it and say what type of event. Is it an on-click event? Is it double click? Is it mouse over? Is it like, there are so many events. There are so many events. And if you use that W3 Schools, I mentioned it in the video in last week, which I've uploaded. Go to W3 Schools, JavaScript. I told you people in your free time, learn JavaScript as well on W3 Schools. And they treated events in details. They listed out all the events. So there are many events. I'm just using these ones for example, but it will do any behavior you want. So this heading paragraph 1 is holding our first paragraph, right? So I can add an event listener to it, and I want to add a mouse over event listener. On mouse over, do this functionality. So basically, take heading paragraph 1, change the styles, the color to dark green, and then leave something in the console for me as well. The console, like I said, is that tool, this tool. When you right click and say inspect, they have different tools. It's called developer tools or dev tools. One of the tools is your console and is mostly used for testing, right? So in heading paragraph 1, we said that when we mouse over, it should console.log, right? And then as well as change the color. So you can see that the color is actually changing, right? From whatever it was to dark green. So that's just event listeners. So you can either use functions and attach that function to something on your page, or you can even use event listeners. They will still help you achieve the same thing. But I feel like functions are a much more cleaner way and structured way to write it. And then number 2, remember what we said about functions being reusable. If I want to put any of this same functionality on anywhere else in my page, all I have to do is call that function on that other place, and that's it. But with this one, how do you really want to do it? Unless multiple things have the same ID, maybe that's when it would work. So functions are a much more cleaner way of doing it. So I'd always prefer to use functions, right? So now I want to quickly use the opportunity to do something I wanted to do last week, to teach you people on dates, date, time, and the rest of those things. So JavaScript has inbuilt date, time, month, year functionality for easy creation of dates, right, on your page. So I don't know if I'll create it as a function, but I'll teach it 111 first before I create a function to show dates on our page, on our website. So I'll create it as a function, and I'll create it 111 and use the console tool to show you people how JavaScript can create date and time for us. So let's just say, let today be equal to new dates. This is how to create a new date in JavaScript, to get the current date of today. So I'll console.log today for you. So I'll just add this text in front so that we will know exactly the part that we should look out for. But what I'm consoling is this today variable that is holding the new date. Let's see what that gives us. Please, for now, I will disable this alert because it's worrying me. I don't like the fact that every time I refresh, I have to say okay on the page. So I'll comment it out for now here and just be refreshing so that I can be seeing my page as it is. So right now, inspect, go to our console, right? We refresh. So can you see today's date is, so it literally printed out the whole date, Saturday, June 21st, 2025, with the time and everything, British summer time. So you can even display this on your main page if you want to always maybe display the date for the user or something, right? Okay, so you can do that. We have the one for just getting the dates, because this one got the whole, it got the day, the month, the day, the day of the week, the month, the date, the year, the time, the minute, the second, the hour, everything. It got everything. So I just want to get only the dates. So let me say, let's day is equal to. So what I can say, new date again, but I've already created the new date inside here, right? So I technically already have access to the whole date of today, the month, the year, the time, everything inside here. So they are sitting in this container called today. So I can just call today and extract just the dates from it, and you can use get dates functionality to do that. Today.get date. These are all inbuilt JavaScript functions. This one you don't have to build it by yourself. This one you don't have to build it by yourself. JavaScript already comes with it out of the box. So I don't know if you understood what I did. I first did new date. It printed out everything from month to year to day of the week, everything. But because they are sitting in this container called today, I can just get this container and extract only the dates from it. So let's look at what it returns in our console. So you can see day of the month, 21, 21st. Today is the 21st, right? So we can extract the month as well. Let month be equal to today.getMonth. With months in particular, just with months, you have to add +1 to the front. And the reason is because months are 0 indexed. And this is what you will see when we enter more into arrays. You understand what indexing means. So there are some specific things in JavaScript that it starts to count from 0, not 1. So like arrays, now remember when we treated arrays last week? Yeah, this was our array example, right? When JavaScript is counting this thing now, it will not start from 1, 2, 3. It will start from 0, 1, 2. So if I call this array anywhere, this colors array, and I want to get color red, I will not say 1. I will say 0. Give me 0. If I want to get color green, I will not say 2. I will say give me 1. Like that. Just know that that's how JavaScript starts to count things. Let month be today.getMonth. And it's pretty much the same thing for months. Months are 0 indexed. So that means they start to count from 0 to 11, not 1 to 12. So for us to get the, actually, I'm supposed to console this as well and see if it returns. Yeah, so it says we are in month 6. If we did not add the 1, let's see what it's going to tell us, what month it will say we are. It will think we are in month 5. Because month starts to count from 0, right? So if it's counting January as 0, February will be 1, March will be 2, April would be 3, May would be 4. That means June would be 5. So anytime you are working with months, you have to remember this and add +1 so that it would add 1 in front and be counting the correct month, because June is really supposed to be 6 according to English calendar, right? So that's just something I wanted to highlight on month. Now let's try and get the year. Let year is equal to the same thing. I'm sure you can guess it. Today.getFullYear. And we'll console our year and see which year we are. We are in year 2025. We can see it here, 2025. So this is everything we've done on the dates and time so far, right? So we are in year 2025. Let's get the hours from this time. So today.getHours tab. So I'll console.log the hours and we'll see. So we are 16, which is 4. As you can see, we are in 4:08 now. So let's get the minutes. So I can see you are getting the idea now. Today.get minutes, same with seconds. Today.get seconds. And just like that, it will bring everything. So we have 4 o'clock in the 8 minutes in the 47 seconds. So these are just inbuilt time functionalities for JavaScript, right? So now I want a function that will be displaying the time for me. So I'll create a function and I'll call it show current dates. Let's just call it that. And like so, we have our function. Now, what's the first thing I want to do? Const. So I talked about variables, let and const last week. That let will allow you declare something and still go down and change that thing. Whatever you put in that variable, you can change the value of it. But const will not let you do that. So be careful when you are using let and const. I just want to use const now because I feel like we've been using let. And the other reason why I want to use const because I know that this thing I'm putting on const against will not change. This new date JavaScript will always pick the new dates. So if I pick const now, if I say const now, for example, I'm passing new date to it. Anytime JavaScript reads this code, it will always read new date. It cannot change. Nothing is changing. So I'm very, very sure that nothing will change. That's why I'm using const. But if maybe down the line, maybe when we connect to back end and I feel like I want to send something from the back end into this variable and I know it will change, I will just respect myself and use let. So const is for constant things that you know will not change. I gave an example last week. If you watch the video, you see the error that it threw when we try to change something on const. So now let's get our dates again. I'll just do it all over again. So we'll say I'll use const for this one instead of let. Const day is get dates. Const month is get months +1 because of what we said. Year is get year. Hours is get hours. Let's see, I'll try to get the minutes and the seconds too. So basically the same thing we've done here. I was just showing people how to do it, but it's the same. I'm trying to build out my function with the same thing we've done here pretty much, right? Apart from the console, because I don't need the console. Now, I'll write another const formatted dates. This is another variable I'm declaring still inside this function. And JavaScript ES6 introduced something called template literals, and is a way to easily join strings together, concatenate strings together without using plus, right? So I'll show you template literals now. To do template literals, instead of string, and then you are writing day plus, you're doing it like this, plus day, plus this, plus that, plus that. Instead of, it will still work, but instead of doing this, JavaScript has provided an easier way to join things together with template literals. And this is the syntax. I don't want it to complete it for me. I want to write, yeah, this is the syntax. Instead of quotes like this, you use these two things. They are called backticks. Mine is just beside my number one key. You have to find yours. They are called backticks. And inside them, you can now write any full string you want to write. You can construct string in any way you want. You can manipulate strings how you want. So I will just say today is, right? I'll just say today is. Then you need $sign. So what do I want first? I want you say $sign, and then you open curly brackets, open and close like this. Today is, so I want the day. So today is 21st, so 21, right? Today is 21. And then I want a slash. I want it to look like a real date, actually. That's why I'm doing it like this. Then $sign, 21 months, June. So it said 21/6, right? Then $sign, year, 21/6/2025. That's what this will read for us. We are constructing our string now using template literals. I will add the time as well. So to write this using actual strings, I know how hard it would have been. We would have done plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this. We are just writing it in template literals now. So it's time now. So hours. So it will give us the 4 o'clock. And I'll write it like real time. So I'll put ... minutes and ... column second. And I'll just like to console.log the formatted date as well. So this is our function now, right? So I don't want to do it when you click on a button. So I'll trigger it immediately. Show current dates. Just show current dates to us. So when the page loads, it's going to bring back this function, and this will show in our console. And with this one, I can now attach it to, with the function itself, I can attach it to any button I want. We just have to think of a good place to put it. I would have loved to put it in the header, but I don't know how it will break the style. So I don't know. Let's see. This is our nav. So somewhere inside here, we want to add for date. So I'll just put it in a paragraph, and I'll give this paragraph an ID of current day. Let's just give this paragraph this ID like so and leave it in here. So right now in our function, we already have our function pretty much, right? So what we can do, we can target that ID current day, right? We can do something like documents.get elements by ID and say current day, like so. So we have this now in here. And then we can now change the text content of it. Remember, we left it in here is empty. So by now, it should just be showing empty. Nothing should be showing on it because the paragraph, nothing is inside. So we can change the text content of the paragraph to now read from our function. No, show current dates like this, right? I just hope I'm not mixing up this syntax. Const formatted date is this. So now, one other thing I forgot. Again, if you remember that our slide where we talked about functions, we said a function you can give it a name, which we've seen severally. It can take input, although we've not really seen this, but from next week class, we'll try to give our function arguments. It can do something, which we've seen it do something, and then it can return a value. So for this function now, I want it to return the formatted dates for us, because anything it returns, if I'm going to call that function on this paragraph and pass in the function, it should be able to pass in this return value. Whatever is in formatted date, it should be able to be what to be shown in here. But let's see how that works. For this one, I'll just comment it out. I don't even think I need it again, to be fair. So we can see today is this. I don't know. Okay, it won't show on other page because JavaScript are not linked to those other pages yet. But yeah, for this one, it's saying today is this. And we can even additionally like so you see our console is out. So return has to be the last statement in your function. Anything after return becomes invalid. So the console, I have to move it before there. But yeah, we can even change the color of it as well. We can change the color of the text, or we can just actually let's just give the paragraph a style from this place, an inline style. Let's just say style color. I don't even know the color, gray. Let's just do gray, to be fair. Gray is fine because I feel like the dark text is too harsh. Yeah, it's not blending with what we did. So yeah, so JavaScript is giving us our current date and our current time, right? It's showing us, and every time we refresh, we see it's updating in seconds. Next week, we can look at adding functionality to like make it to be updating automatically. We don't have to be refreshing every time before it updates. We can try to be updating it automatically on the fly, right? So, but I think this is it for this week. This is what I plan to do. I didn't plan for it to go too far, to be honest, but I feel like we needed to look at some things, right? We needed to look at functions. We needed to look at how to manipulate the DOM with documents, dots, get elements, and something and whatnot. So I just needed to take you people through, and then I know I did not factor in dates and time and months into my curriculum, so I wanted to quickly do it. And then function scope, like when you declare a variable locally versus when you declare it globally for everywhere to see it. So I just wanted us to leave you guys with more information on dates and time. That's why I threw this in here. It's not like it was part of the classes. To be honest, we were not supposed to cover it, but I just wanted to introduce it. It was mostly events and functions. So this brings us to the end of the class. Before we go, I would like to push. This is something that we should be doing now. So I'll push everything I've done to GitHub. So if we do git status, these are the 3 files we've touched today. So Git is keeping track of the new changes in them. So right now, we want to do git add all the files. If you don't want all the files, you pick it one by one. If you want all the files, you add all with dots, right? So if we do git status again, it should be green. So we have staged these files now. So after staging, you commit. So git commit -m. -m is for the message. So you add a message. So what did we do today? We did functions. And I say you always have to commit with an action word, like as if you now want to do the thing, right? You're not going to use past tense like added. You're going to use add, like you are doing it declarative. So add function, DOM manipulation, and dates. So these are the 3 things we treated. So I think this message is fine. And then we are going to do git push origin. We push to our main branch. Git push origin main. I didn't spell main well. I said main. So it's pushing, yeah, and it's pushed up. So if we refresh, we should see that something has just come in, right? Yeah, so this is our new commit, add function, DOM manipulation, and date. And this is the commit hash, the commit number. And if we go into our JavaScript file, we should actually see everything we've done today in there added as well. So yeah, we have everything up there now. So you can just what's the word? You can watch the videos on YouTube, play around with it, try to, change things up, try to play around with things. Just do anything you want to do, even if it's not working, just do it. Try to use those resources from W3 schools, everything we just did. Just try to redo everything. And most importantly, before you write any line that you want to write, make it make sense to you first. Make sure that you understand why you are writing any line, any single line you are trying to write in a moment. Make sure you know why you are writing it before you actually proceed to write it. But yeah, we are done with this week's class. I will see you guys the next week.